Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Gazza9919 here, and what we're going to be doing today is the calipers and the rear drums on my Mark 5 Fiesta. So what we're going to be doing is they are going to be painted red, and for that we have this high temperature 2K paint, K2 paint, sorry. And apparently, from what I've heard, you're not really supposed to use any, you don't need to use primer or lacquer before or after it. So we'll give it a go. See if we can get a nice shiny red caliper on the go. Even if it's a matte finish, then it's still better than rustiness. We also have these, which are abrasive drill bits. I thought they was going to be a bit bigger. They are actually tiny. I don't know how long they'll last, but they're my only option, so we'll give them a go. Now, in an ideal world, after you've cleaned it up before you start painting, you want to ideally get some rubbing alcohol on it or something so it can properly clean it up and there's no loose bits left or anything like that, or you want brake cleaner and then rubbing alcohol, and that'll help. Or you can even use hand sanitizer for the alcohol, to be fair, and just put some of that around it. As you'll see with this one isn't so bad rusty. Somebody's already attempted to paint it by the looks of it. They've gone for a rather dashing green, which is questionable. We're going to get rid of that completely. When doing this, really, well, you concentrate on the whole thing, but you just want to concentrate on the bit that you're going to see more than anything, because the reason we paint it is so that we can see it. Questionable whether you want to do bits like this, because what could happen over time is the paint could get stuck to the wheel, but then again, you can probably still get the wheel off all right. I've wire brushed it down to my best capabilities. Use a bit of WD-40 in a cloth because I'm too lazy to go out and get brake cleaner and hand sanitizer to sort of clear the area properly. For the most part, to the touch, it's not really dirty. I've just taped off this little area here, mainly because if I ever need to change the bearing or anything and we need to pop this cap off, it makes it a bit easier if it's not covered in paint. The threads of the nuts, obviously you want to take them off. You don't want to get paint in them because it will make your life a nightmare to get bolts on and off. It could get jammed in the threads and it could do the threads in. So yeah, let's get painting. Okay, so I've just done both of them. Now it's just a case of leaving them overnight. This has been sat for a good hour or so and it's still tacky, so it needs to properly dry. I'm not going to put the wheels back on just yet because I don't want the wheels to stick and destroy any of the paint or make it peel off. So like I said, we'll just leave it overnight and come back to it tomorrow. Okay, so now this is the next morning, and as you can see, that is nice and dry. Well happy with it, and it should look even better once the wheel's back on. Compared to what it did look like, I think it looks 10 times better. Okay, so the rear is done. Now it is a case of getting the calipers done on the front. So yeah, we're going to get this wheel off and make a start. Progress report, we have wire brushed down the caliper, and obviously we've got that sitting on the bucket because there's no point disconnecting the hose because then you've got to re-bleed the brakes and it's just one less job to do if you keep it connected. We've taken the disc off because when we're respraying we don't want to catch the disc at all. That is the one thing you don't want to get paint on because obviously you want to stop. And also we are currently working on the caliper carrier. I'm just going to clean this up and then we're going to start taping up, well, cleaning and prepping next and taping areas off that we don't want to get. So things like here where your calipers sit, you definitely don't want to get any paint in there. Right then guys, so that is the caliper taped off. So we've just done the main things. So your bleeder nipple you want to tape off, brake hose obviously. I've just taped this off completely because realistically we're only painting the caliper so that we can see the front section and the top. Nobody's going to be looking where your brake pads are, and the only people who will probably be looking there is the garage. And you, to be fair, you're just best blocking that section off, because then you haven't got to be really finicky around the piston. But still put a bit of tape around the piston still, just to be safe. But you know what I mean, like you're just securing it a bit more. So yeah, the piston, and obviously these bits at the back, they might need a bit more tape. Realistically, what you want to achieve is you don't want to be seeing any rubber. So you want to make sure where the slide pins go in, you don't want to do that. But yeah, apart from that, we're good to paint. Obviously, you want to make sure you cover all the areas, mechanical areas. Don't really want paint on that. I don't think it will necessarily do much, but it will just look tacky. Same with your bumper and stuff like that. You don't really want red paint everywhere because it just look tacky, to be fair. So let's get on with that, and then we'll move on to the carrier after. Okay, so it's not the most conventional way of painting the carrier, but the fact of the matter is it's hammering it down outside, and I'm not too bothered about the back of it in terms of paint. So that's why I've just attacked the front with paint and the bits that you'll probably see when the wheel's back on. With the actual caliper itself, it's doing quite well, as you can see. Starting to get that nice sort of Brembo-y red that everybody desires to have. As it stands, I'm happy with the amount of coats I've got on it. I'm going to leave this for at least maybe a good few hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours. If it isn't properly dried, then it will be left overnight, and then we'll put it back on tomorrow. These have now been left overnight. They're now bone dry, and it's just going to be a case of reassembling them. I did buy some new bits a while ago, so we've got the brand new retaining spring and the sliding pins with the rubber locators where the sliding pins go into. Because of how hardened the rubber on the existing calipers is, it's going to be a bit tricky to get it out, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I've greased the slide pins up. Now it's just going to be a case of putting a slight bit of copper grease in between these runways for the pads so that they can move nice and freely, and then we can assemble the whole thing back together. As much as I said I was going to use a brand new retaining spring, I've put the old one back on because the new one obviously hasn't been used before. It's bent to factory, whereas this spring has been used a lot and obviously just goes in so much easier. And the problem is I've already scratched the caliper a bit trying to get the new spring in, and I don't really want to cause any more damage, so I've just put the old one back in. Doesn't look too bad anyway. But yeah, overall with the caliper I'm quite happy. Let's just get the wheel on, see what it looks like on the car once it's on the floor. Right then guys, so that is the rear drums and the front calipers painted. Here is a picture of the front one with the wheel back on. I forgot to include a little video of this, but as you can see, it doesn't look too bad at all. Yeah, I don't know. I think with this job, it's a lot nicer if you've got a car that you don't really use so much as use it in the day. You know, if you use your car on a day-to-day basis, then it's kind of a bit tricky to get this done because there is a lot of wait time for drying and stuff like that. I know you can, if you want to, you can put the calipers or drums back on tacky, and then you can drive, and then obviously while you brake, that'll heat it up and help it dry quicker. But I don't know, just for me personally, just to avoid getting any sort of brake dust in the paint or anything like that, I just prefer to let it dry beforehand. But like I said, I've got the option where I can just leave it in the garage overnight. And obviously, on your everyday car that you use day to day, you can't really do that. But yeah, overall, I think the job itself is actually rather simple to do, especially if you're doing it on a Fiesta. The rear will always be simpler if it's a drum. Because a drum, it's literally, you don't even really need to, all you need to do is take the wheel off and that's it, and then just mask up any nuts or bolts and stuff like that. The calipers obviously a lot more intricate, but yeah, overall it's quite I think for the sake of like £10 for the paint on eBay, I'll put a link in the description for the paint. For the sake of £10 and a few days, if you've got a bit of spare time, then I think it makes quite a bit of a difference to the car. I think it makes it look 10 times better on the brakes and stuff like that. You know, it really makes them pop. But that is it for this video, guys. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even hit that bell icon for notifications on future uploads. But until the next time, peace.